Good evening, everybody. My name is Mr Shipman and I'm head teacher here at Sheffield Springs Academy. Welcome to our first ever virtual open evening. I hope you've had a chance to have a good look around the website. There's some really useful videos and information to share with both parents and students alike, and get a real flavour for the Academy. I've got a presentation tonight to explain about the school and what you can expect, and I'll take you through that. On the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see a text box, and if you want to ask any questions, please type into that text box, and then at the end of the presentation, Mr Howard, one of my colleagues on the senior leadership team, will ask those questions to me, and I'll be able to answer them for you live tonight. The presentation is based on the school and how it is. I've kind of left any references out regarding the current situation with pandemic that we're living through, but I am happy to take any questions on that at the end of the presentation. What hopefully doesn't annoy you is me saying next when I need to click onto the next slide, and I apologise about that. But I've got Mr Dixon from school who's helping me on the presentation, and we'll be putting that up for you to see as we go along. Thank you very much for giving us the time this evening, and I hope you get a real flavour for the school. And on that note, I'll ask Mr Dixon to switch on the slideshow. Thank you, sir. So if you can go on to the next slide. Let's see if it goes on. There we go. So first of all, thank you, as I've said, for giving me the time tonight. It's a big decision about which the big decision is about which school you send your son or daughter to, and it's such an important decision. And hopefully tonight I can give you information about Sheffield Springs Academy. I sincerely hope that you'll be impressed by what you hear. If I could give you any advice, it would be to find out about all the schools in your area and make the best decision for you and your child moving forwards. So you know, make sure you go to other local schools and compare as well. I sincerely hope, of course, that you choose Springs. I think you'll be impressed with what we've done there over the last few years. It's a great school. It's a school that I absolutely love. Has got a lot of character about it, and is improving as well. And you know, I think last year you probably known that the school got its first Ofsted Good Judgment in its entire history, and we're really proud of that. But we don't actually think we've finished the job just because we've been told we're a good school. We want our school to be even better, and when it is even better, then the pupils get an even better deal then. And I think that's the key thing. Pupils are at the heart of everything we do, and the reason we do it is for them and for no other reason. Next, please, sir. So what tonight's about, I want you to leave satisfied that you have all the information you require. What I will say to you is, if there is some information that you do want that I'm given tonight, then please either ask questions at the end of this meeting or feel free to give me a ring at school. I am more than happy to have conversations with any parents regarding transition up to Sheffield Springs Academy. I think it's really important that you as a parent have all the information you require to make the most informed choice for your young child. Thanks, sir. So I'm going to start, and there's a cute little person in the middle there. That's my daughter. A couple of years ago, we had to choose a primary school, and it was really hard. And we visited 3 or 4 primaries in the area. And I remember those feelings around that are there, if you like, that were my feelings that are around Ava. And those were, I felt she was ready for school. She was happy. She was a little bit worried as well about what it entailed. We were incredibly nervous, but we saw that there were a lot of new opportunities. And I think that's probably how you'll be feeling at this moment in time. And it's about making the best decision possible, knowing your child as best as you do. I think the important things, though, are at the top of the page there. So above all else, what I wanted for Ava when she was going into her primary school was her to be happy, for her to be safe, for her to make outstanding progress, and for her to develop a passion for something. And I think that's really important. Too often in schools we talk about grades and doing really well in certain subjects, and I think that's incredibly important. Of course it is, because it opens doors for pupils in later life. However, having a passion about something and having an education with what we call character, so having the opportunity to do different things than what they normally do, is just as important. And whether that passion lies in the arts or music or sport or certain academic subjects, I think that's really important. And that's what we're about at Springs. And I'll talk to you through this presentation about what we do with regards to that. What I will say is that I found the process of choosing a primary school for Ava incredibly challenging and draining. I can't even imagine what it's like when she'll be going to secondary school. She's not there yet. She's currently in year 5. But I've got all this to come from a parent's point of view. And I just want to be there to support you as parents, to be open and honest and answer any questions that you may have so that you can make the best choice. Next, please, sir. So we have 3 values at Springs, and I think values are important in any school. But what's more important than the values is that these are lived, so that you can see them when you come into the school. One huge disappointment for me this year is that I can't show you around the school. For the last 2 years, we've been one of a few secondary schools in the area that have opened up their doors during normal learning time to show parents around and take them into live classrooms, if you like, with students and teachers hard at work in them, and to show you around the building. And unfortunately, due to the current situation, I can't do that. Our 3 values are very simple: excellence, pride, and ambition. We want, and this is really important, for everybody within the school community to display these values. So that's me as head teacher, teaching staff around the academy, support staff who are so important in the school running really well, pupils, parents when they're in the building as well. So it's about, first of all, excellence and having that determination and enthusiasm to be the best version of yourself. Everybody's different. We all get that. People have different starting points with the studies. People like and are passionate about different things, but it's having that determination and enthusiasm to be the best. We also want to instill that sense of pride. I think that has been something that has risen quite rapidly these last couple of years. So we want to be proud of ourselves as people who are coming into Springs every day. And we want to be proud of that academy, but more importantly perhaps is we want to be proud of the community. One of the biggest things for me as head teacher at that school is for people of the community to have a school that they really feel does a good job, and I think we are getting there with it. And I want to be centre of our community and provide that support and care for pupils and families. And hopefully with that comes a kind of mutual respect. And the last thing I want is an ambition. I want pupils to have that creativity and confidence to be able to do whatever it is they want to do. There's no limit on their ambitions, and we will absolutely push your students, if they join Springs, to the very best that they can be with their studies for when they move on from Springs. We have some wonderful links across school that I'll be able to come to in a little bit to show you how we can help install those important values and live them every day. Next, please. So the important thing for me, I always think, is the triangle of support. I also call it the triangle of success. But we actually need students, the home, so parents or carers, and school to work together. If one of those points on the triangle is missing or not working, then basically the student doesn't get the best deal. And everything we do, as I've said already, is about putting students at the forefront of everything. Every decision that I make as head teacher is based on what's the best for our students. And if something's not right for our students, then as difficult a decision that may be, we don't do it. So we need your support. And the next slide, I'm going to kind of explain that a little bit more. Next, please. So we've developed our parent charter, and we want a good partnership between school and parents. So we ask this of parents first of all. When you do sign up to Springs, please support us with this. Uniform and equipment. We do have a uniform in school. We are strict on that uniform. We challenge anybody out of uniform, and we want pupils to have equipment each day. They must have a school bag, and that needs to be packed the night before so that they've got all the equipment we need. We are also understanding with the fact that we know that there might be issues with equipment or uniform. So if there are, we ask that you call us and contact us and let us know, and then we can help. You know, it's important if we're having uniform that we follow that policy, but also we know that things can happen. You know, if someone fell over on the way home and ripped the blazer, then it's understandable that they're not going to be in the blazer the next day. But what we'd do is we'd either lend them a blazer, or we'd talk to you about when's the earliest opportunity they could get the blazer. They'd still be welcome into school, of course they would. So hopefully what you can see is we are strict on that, but at the same time we're understanding as well. With regards to attendance, it is so vital. It's vital that your child attends every day. It's vital that your child attends on time, and it's absolutely vital that you contact us if they're going to be off. You will know as well as I do, through no fault of the students, they've been off for 5.5 months. They've missed a lot of learning. All pupils across the country and all year groups now have got to try and catch up, and that's, as head teacher at the moment, my biggest challenge for Springs is to make sure every child gets caught up to where they need to be. If they're absent from school, they can't catch up. It's as simple as that. So it's really important that you support us with that. In terms of behaviour, it's really important that you read the behaviour policy, and it's on the website and it's under the policies. When you're thinking about which school to choose, it's really important you read that and are familiar with that. As a school, we pride ourselves on being quite strict, particularly around learning, and we don't tolerate any disruption. So if a pupil does disrupt, then they are removed from that class, and how long they stay out of class depends on what's happened within the lesson. It's important we have a strict behaviour policy because pupils have the right to learn, and if that is disrupted, then that just can't be right. Teachers have the right to teach. They spend a long time planning their lessons. If all that gets disrupted, again, it's not right. So we need you to back us up with the school behaviour policy. And what I do say to parents is, when you've read all the information about us, if you then decide to send your child to our school, then please, please, please support us with what we're doing. We're a big institution. There's a lot of students here, 1,000. There's a lot of staff work in the academy, almost 130. We will get some things wrong, and if we do get something wrong, we'll put our hand up to you and say we're sorry. And I think that's really important, because we're not perfect, and I go back to that point, but we won't hide behind things. If we've got something wrong, we will say sorry to you and we'll put it right and learn from our mistake. We need you to support any decision that we make. Again, that comes back to an element of trust, and if we have got it wrong, then talk to us and we'll put it right. But if that decision is correct, then we need you to support us and give the same message to your child. Kids make mistakes. We know that, so it's about us being the educator and educating them in what's right and wrong. It also includes that the school's responsibility is students travelling to and from school. We do take very seriously how they get to school, but also how they get home as well. Next, please. Okay, lessons and learning. All I'd ask is that you take an active interest in what the subjects that your child's studying. There's a curriculum information on the website which will share the content of what your child's learning. We ask that you discuss it with them. And one thing I always think is useful is let them teach you. So my daughter, who's in year 5, is very good at teaching me about her topic work on many occasions, which I have no idea about. But I get her to sit down and almost teach me a lesson for 20 minutes on what she's learned. And actually, it's really helping my general knowledge as well, which is a positive thing. And she's far more knowledgeable on me than some of her key year 5 topics. Please attend all parents' evening, so important. We will give you a really deep analysis on how well your child is doing, but we need you to be there to do it. And it's important that you get the chance to sit down with your child's teachers. Homework is obviously crucial. I'm sure your child's doing some homework in primary at the moment. It steps up a bit in secondary. It's really important that they keep to the deadlines, that you look in the homework diary, and that you become familiar with some of the online learning platforms we use, such as Hegarty Maths or Sparks. Don't worry too much about that. We'll induct pupils into how to use those websites and learning platforms, and they'll log on and they'll show you around what it does, etc. And the final thing, being a PE teacher by trade, and one of the most important things for me to give pupils really good experience in school is get your child to participate in extracurricular clubs. I always ask pupils to try a different one a week, really. And they don't have to go to, they might go to music and think, actually, do you know what, that's not for me. But they might go to PE and think, actually, yeah, I really like that netball club, I'm going to go every week. And long as they find something that they're passionate about and that they can do, they'll make new friendship groups, they'll make new strong relationships with different staff who might not teach them, and it'll really make their life so much enjoyable in school. I was fortunate when I was at school that I had a PE teacher who invested lots of time in me and did lots of things out of school with me, and I think that's really important. And what we're trying to do is create an environment for pupils where they have a lot of learning, but also a lot of great opportunities and experiences as well. Next, please, sir. So we've got the Spring 6. This is something we have introduced this year, but it shows you about our expectations. There's 6 expectations that are all linked to our values. One is around uniform, so when they're in class, pupils have to have the coats off, the blazer and tie on, shirts tucked in, and school shoes. I've often been asked a question about blazers and do they have to wear them at all times. They have to wear them on the corridors. They can take them off in the classrooms. On a hot day, so in the summer, I keep obviously a close eye on the weather, and if it's a particular hot day, I'll send an email out to all teachers to tell pupils that they can just put the blazers in the bag for that day. And we don't want people to be uncomfortable. We're not unreasonable. We have a pride in our being prepared. Sorry, so drinks away under the drinks away, bags under the table, pens out. We're ready for learning. that we have an excellent attitude. We sit students in seating plans. We expect them to follow instructions at the first time of asking, and we expect them to listen. And if they don't, then they'll be challenged about that, because if we waste 1 minute in the lesson, then that's 1 minute too many. And all those little minutes of asking pupils to put the bags down, or listen, or follow instructions, you know, that can add up to 20 minutes in a lesson. Well, we have 50-minute lessons, you know, we're wasting nearly half the time. Routines around, we expect a silent register. So I might say, good morning, Charlie. Charlie would say, good morning back, Mr Shipman, a really polite response. And that works really nice. And it is very, very respectful as well. We follow, in terms of our learning, a structure that we feel really does help pupils learn. So when pupils come into class, they have a do now activity, and then when they've done that, that's a short, sharp activity, probably 5 or 6 minutes, where they'll answer some questions maybe and recap on prior learning, and then they will listen to the teacher, as the teacher will show them a new piece of learning. So it's what we call I do, so the teacher does it. Then they practice together. So the pupil practices with the teachers, and that's called we do. And then we engage the pupils with they get on. So in a maths lesson, we'd maybe show them how to add pupils how to add fractions. The teacher would show that with an example, and then he'd do some worked examples with the pupils, and then he'd give 7 or 8 questions to the pupils to do on their own, and then get feedback. So we're kind of leading them through and scaffolding that learning. And then, of course, trying your best in completing your homework. One of the biggest questions pupils worried about is detentions all the time. My answer to that is, if you stick to our expectations, you don't get a detention. We don't want to give anybody a detention. You know, staff want to be doing other things that are more enjoyable with pupils than doing detentions, but I'm sure you'll understand we have to have sanctions, and we do have sanctions for things like not doing your homework, being sent out of class for poor behaviour, etc. In lessons, pupils get 3 opportunities, so they'll be told 3 times by the teacher. The first time they'll be warned, the second time they'll move seats to hopefully move them away from anybody who's been distracting them, and then the third time they'll be removed from class, and they stay then in isolation for the rest of the day and do an hour's detention that night. Again, it's about having high standards. It's about making sure that learning takes place and nothing disrupts that. Next, please. So in terms of the curriculum, students will follow a really broad and balanced curriculum. They'll probably do about 10 subjects in that first year, and that's really good. You know, we don't want to narrow it down, and that's the way pupils find their passion through. You know, they'll enjoy some subjects more than others, I'm sure, but they'll be able to begin to think about, you know, what they do particularly enjoy and want to maybe study further as they go through school. Learning is at the heart of everything we do. It has to be. It's why you send your children to school. They have to be safe as well. That's really important. But learning is the heart of what we do, and more importantly, high quality learning. So we do a lot of work with teachers on making sure that lessons are the very best that they can be, and that they are planned with every inch of that 50 minutes to make sure that your child gets the best deal in learning. As leaders, we regularly quality assure the learning through learning walks around school and lesson drop-ins. In our form time program, we have form reading time, which takes place 3 times a week. And the idea behind that is to develop pupils' literacy. The students have that designated form tutor that they meet it shouldn't say 3 times a week, it should be 5 times a week. But they meet this tutor every day. One big concern from parents is, that you've got somebody easily accessible at primary school, at year 6 teacher normally, who you can speak to all the time, but when you get to a big secondary school, it's really hard to get in touch with somebody. Well, your form tutor and the head of year will be your key contact for you to make sure that your children are okay. Students will set a mixture of low stakes and formal assessments each year. What I mean by low stakes is when they come into their classroom, for example, and they do the do now, they'll do a little test on the last, maybe based on the last lesson, but it is relatively low stakes. The teacher isn't taking down the marks. They won't be reporting those marks to you. What they're doing is just wanting to get an overview of what pupils have retained from the previous lesson, and then they can help them and teach them accordingly. The more formal assessments each year, you will get the results of, and we'll let you know how they're doing, and we'll also let you know when they're taking place so that you can help in terms of preparing pupils for those assessments. Thank you. So these are our key performance indicators, and I'll show you how briefly it works, but you can get it on the website. Thank you. So the overarching objectives really of them are that, I've said already, every pupil has a broad, balanced and ambitious curriculum. We want it to be interesting, we want it to engage, and we want it to be developmental, so that pupils enjoy coming to school and get passionate about what they're doing. It's important that teachers also have those opportunities to be creative as well, and that they have a passion for their subject. If you're a science teacher, you've got to love your subject. Otherwise, if you don't love your subject, how can your pupils love it? If you're a maths teacher, you've got to be really passionate about maths, and that's got to come through to the pupils. And that's what we aim with our teachers all the time. And what teachers and leaders do is collaborate a lot. They share ideas, they share best practice, they plan together, so that every pupil who walks through that door every day gets the best possible entitlement, if you like, for them. We provide a clear framework for assessing them, and it's important that you understand that framework, and we'll kind of guide you through it. I'll give you an overview today, but we'll get more into that hopefully when you join in September. It's important that pupils, that parents and that teachers understand what pupils can do, and then what they must then do in order to fulfill their potential. So it's important we know what pupils can do, what knowledge they have, because if we don't know that, we can't help them get to the next stage. And our curriculum is built and aligned with United Learning, who are our academy sponsor. For the a fantastic range of resources come from them. Lots of support that basically just help the pupils. And all in all, it's about us doing something brilliant together to benefit young people. Thank you. So how it works. We have assessment points roughly every half term. Pupils are assigned a starting point. That starting point is based on their key stage 2 SAT results. Okay, so we look at that, and we kind of pop them onto a flight path. We then they're informally assessed every half term 1, 3 and 5, and then terms 2, 4 and 6 we do a formal assessment with them. They're normally done in line with United Learning, and then we actually send those results to you. Pupils are set KPIPs that they are studying, so we've got a clear framework, and also that there's an even spread of pupils on the same ability range within each class. And we have a standard interactive whiteboard template that supports that, and that is informative, and that when pupils go to every single lesson, whether it's geography, history, maths, food, PE, they see the same lesson template, and that hopefully helps them with some familiarity around learning. Thank you. And there's an example of the KPIPs, and you'll see down the left hand side here the scaled score. So when pupils get their scaled score for their SATs, they then have a starting point for AP1, assessment point 1 in year 7, and obviously that's informal. Obviously, last year students didn't do their SATs, so we're using our own data and teacher assessments from year 6 to correctly set pupils. Obviously, the plan is still for SATs to go ahead for your child, so we'd use those scores. If they didn't, then we'd revert back to what we've done this year. Thank you. So if you want to know more, this is a copy of our website, and you'll see the 3rd tab across from the left is curriculum and assessment. If you click on year 7, it'll bring a drop down box, and then it lists the range of subjects, and you can look on about what they're doing, and you can actually find out what they're doing during AP1, AP2, and you can talk to them about the topics that they're doing. And as I said earlier, get them to teach you as well, because that's quite fun. Okay, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thank you. Something very different this year, and no other year 7 will have had this, but I want to introduce to you something called Nebula, and this is a unique learning opportunity, and it's around STEM, so science, technology, engineering and maths, and it'll be underpinned by our core values. But basically, students who follow this curriculum will broadly do the same curriculum as other pupils. However, will have more opportunities within the maths and the sciences. Now, what it means is that it's very much aligned to our Springs Promise, and I'm going to talk to you about the Springs Promise in a minute. But if you get onto the Nebula program, then you will stay in school from 3 till 4, Monday to Thursday, and do extra enrichment activities. Okay, if say if it was me and I'm doing this and I'm really excited and I'm doing my extra STEM activities Monday to Thursday, but on a Wednesday I really want to play for the year 7 football team because I'm passionate about that as well, we would let you do that. We're not going to be unreasonable at all. But this is a really exciting thing, and as I said, the first time that we've offered this, and I'm going to explain a little bit more now when we go on to the next slide. So you have to apply for this program. Now, I want to make clear that this had nothing to do with the admissions process. So you apply to Springs, and hopefully you'll get into Springs and be accepted. Once you're accepted in Springs, we will then send you out information about Nebula. And if you want to be on Nebula and the Nebula pathway, then pupils have to do an aptitude assessment. It's something that you cannot revise for, and just an assessment for us to basically look at your knowledge and understanding. Then when you've done that assessment, you will be invited to an interview, and we will interview you prior to September, so that we can write to you and inform you that you hopefully got on the program. The Nebula program is for students who will be targeted at a grade 9 in their GCSEs. It is the very top end, if you like, for those pupils to try and push them further. The reason why we've introduced this program, and I want to be very clear, is that we are very good with students from all ability ranges, but we felt that we could, and we've got a fantastic Senko and Sen team, and we do really well for pupils who need that extra care, guidance and support, but we feel we can do more for those pupils who are gifted as well. So we put this program on this year, and we'd like as many people to express an interest in that as possible, and then we'll do the assessments with you. We're expecting it to be about one class, so possibly 30 pupils. but we'll talk to you more about that once you've applied for the school and you know you've got a place. Thank you. So it's important that I talk to you about the care and guidance and support, because I really think this is something that does set Springs apart from other secondary schools. We see the best in everyone, and we really do. And I don't mean that to sound a little bit cheesy or anything like that, but United Learning have the line of the best in everyone, and we really do follow that. We have a designated safeguarding team and wellbeing coordinator that look after pupils in school and are able to support with any challenging circumstances they might come up against. We've got form tutors who act as a first point of contact. We've got heads of year who support the form tutors and the students. We have a dedicated school nurse on site who is able to support with medical needs and first aid and everything like that. We have an attendance team who will come out and visit you if need be, and talk to you about how we can improve your child's attendance. They're also there to support you if you've got particular problems with getting your child into school. We have a SEND team, a special educational needs team, who work through a fantastic provision called the Bridge, where our pupils are absolutely love that area. Some of our most vulnerable pupils, but feel really safe and secure and cared for in that provision. We have a team of anti-bullying ambassadors. I think they're really important. Bullying does happen in every school, but it's how you deal with it that's important. And I think on the odd occasion we do get an incident, we deal with it very, very seriously. We have a behaviour for learning team who support teachers, so there's a quick response. If pupils are getting it wrong in class and disrupting learning, the behaviour learning team come and collect them and take them away. We have appointed this year a careers advisor who will make links with all businesses within the community and advise students on what the best careers and courses to do, you know, moving through school and then when they leave school. And we've also got our own specialist English as an additional language teacher for those pupils that need additional work on their language skills. And that, again, it sits next to the Bridge, and it's a fabulous resource that we're very proud of. Thank you. So I've spoke to you about the Springs Promise. When I became head at Springs, I wanted to give pupils a well-rounded education, because I had that myself. Speaking from my own experience in school, I was never the brightest. I was never in all the top sets all of the time, but I really enjoyed school because I worked hard, I tried my best, and I did lots of things outside of school as well, and that's so important. So the Springs Promise are 10 things that we promise to you and to your children, and that we want them to have a go at. Now, you won't do all of these in year 7, but by the time you get to the end of year 11, we hope that you will have ticked off all these 10. You will have probably done some more of the 10 than the others, if that, you know, so you might have been on 3 residential visits by the time you leave us in year 11. But these are the key things. So attend a residential visit. So important to get away from home and to try different things and be away from your parents and learn how to make a cup of tea or whatever it might be. And explore the city we live in. We sometimes forget that Sheffield has so many cultural experiences, and we don't really know as much about Sheffield as probably what we ought to. So it's important that we explore that city. It's also important that we try and be creative, whether that's musical instruments, singing, extracurricular sport, drama, dance. You know, not everybody likes sport, for example, and that's fine, but you might find that your passion's in playing a musical instrument or singing in a choir, and we offer bespoke lessons on musical instruments for you as well. We want you to listen to inspirational speakers. You know, you don't want to listen to the head teacher all the time in your assembly or your tutor, etc. What you want to do is sometimes listen to somebody different who has had a different experience, who can inspire you a little bit. We want to be able to take you on art, cultural and sporting events. We run many events, obviously not at the moment because of the lockdown, but we regularly take students to Wembley to watch England matches. to Old Trafford to watch Manchester United. Unfortunately, you won't see me on that trip, but very different events that we can offer to take you on, and pupils love those, and they love that experience, and it gives them something to remember. And I think that's really important. I still remember my first foreign trip abroad at school, and we went to the south of France and the kayak down the Ardèche Gorge, and I remember everything about those 10 days. Even now, obviously I was 14 at the time. I'll let you guess on how many years ago it was. Approximately 10, but I still remember it now on a daily basis. We want to help others within the community and volunteer and fundraise and get pupils into enterprise activities and try and get them to develop their entrepreneurial skills. I think that's really important in preparing them for the life ahead. We want them to represent the Academy at public events. So we're really proud of our pupils, and they do us a really good job in representing the school. So we take different students, we get students to interview teachers, we get students to show new students around school or candidates if they're coming to work here. We do a lot in terms of that. We want to, and we're continuing to develop pupil leadership. It's really important we give them those opportunities, whether it be the student council, our ambassadors, sports leaders, anti-bullying representatives. There's a lot of different opportunities available for leadership, which is so important because it gives them confidence, the confidence to be able to speak, to be able to hold themselves in a public forum and be really good young people. We try and prepare them for life in modern Britain. So debating is so important. Pupils in our school do have some cracking debates, and that public speaking and talking through different things is really important. And then finally, to have meaningful encounters with further education providers and employers as they move through school and they begin to think about what does life after Springs look like? What do I really want to do when I leave school? Thank you. And we have a Springs challenge. So the Springs challenge is a challenge for each year group. So in year 7, you'll be asked to take part in some assembly presentations and speeches. We won't put you up there on your own. We'd never dream of that. We're not going to make you feel uncomfortable, but it is important you take part in these things. We'll have an aspirations day, which again you'll see has a STEM challenge to it. Year 9 always get a little bit worried every year because they do a 15-mile sponsored walk around Rother Valley. When we actually introduced this, the Year 10 assembly a few years ago got a big cheer because it suddenly dawned on them that they'd missed the fact that they'd got to walk 15 miles. But it is for a great cause, and we raised a lot of money. Year 10, we do a social action project. We've been out in the community helping food banks, etc., and done some really good work, and I'm really, really proud of that. As I go back to the point I said earlier, that it really is about school being at the centre of the community. We've got so much resource, and we can help. And also Year 11, as you probably would expect, is focused on what's life like after Springs and how can we support with that. And basically each head of year leads on those challenges, but pupils do them together. Thank you. Okay, I'm sure you've had enough of listening to me now. I've tried to get through that as quick as I can. I've got so much to tell you about our fantastic school. I hope what comes through more than anything is how proud I am. I couldn't be a prouder head teacher of Springs. We don't get everything right all of the time. We do make mistakes, but what you get is a good, honest bunch of staff who work incredibly hard for the very best things for the pupils. And I don't think you could want any more than that. And the way in which the school's improved over the last couple of years has really, it's really made me proud, but it's come about after a lot of hard work and a lot of changes to different systems in school. And I hope that you will trust us with your child. They are really important to you, probably the most important thing to you. I understand that as a parent, and it's vital that we get it right. And thank you very much for listening. I'm now going to hand over to Mr. Howard, who's, I think, going to ask some questions that have come through.
Okay, good evening. The first question is from Natalie. What are your provisions for SEN?
Okay, Natalie, really good question. So as I've said earlier, we have a bridge provision. Bridge provision in school, and that provision is a separate provision that supports young people. But students aren't in there on a full-time basis. So it depends on the needs of the pupils. Some pupils like to just go there for a quiet place at break and lunch times. Some pupils like to go there for a bit of form time maths. It very much depends on what the need of the pupil is. That base is staffed with some very skilled staff who spend some of the time in there, but also some of the time out in learning, supporting pupils as well. And that's really important. So it's blended across the two, and there's a high level of support for those students.
Okay, we've got a second question from Carl. You mentioned the careers advisor. What interactions would a year 7 pupil receive?
Very good question, Carl. 3.5 weeks in, our year 7s haven't had yet any interaction, and the reason for that is because he's been very much focused on year 10s and year 11s, as you would expect, because they've missed so much out of school at the moment that we need to prioritise them. However, but hopefully in September we'll be at some point of normality. So then the careers advisor will be providing those opportunities for pupils to think about what they might like to consider moving forwards. Probably in year 7, they don't, students aren't not going to know what they want to do. But those conversations about what they're passionate about will be really important, because it might lead to other careers. The other thing as well that we are very keen for him to do is introduce employers into school, so that they can build up relationships with your sons and daughters, and then those relationships are built up over a 5-year period and may be able to lead then to apprenticeships, etc. So it's about giving them information early on, not too much, but getting them to think about, well, when in 5 years' time, which is a really long time for students to think about, but can I start thinking now about what it is and that maybe my interest is? How can the careers advisor help me? Can he point me in the right direction of a website or a book or something like that?
Okay, and the final question of tonight. What if I can't afford a residential trip?
What I'll say to you there is that that would never be an issue. I would never ever stop somebody going on an experience because they can't afford it. That's not right, and actually it's illegal as well. So if you couldn't afford it, we'd obviously sit down and have a conversation, and your child would go on that visit. You have my hand on the heart with that. We're not about building something exclusive at Springs. We're about providing opportunities for all, and that's what I'm passionate about. People aren't missing out just because they can't afford it.
Sorry, Mark, we've got a few more questions coming in.
Yeah.
What provision do you have for gifted children?
Okay, so I just explained earlier the Nebula Program. So I don't know if people miss that. Mr. Dixon, could you take us back to the Nebula Program, please? No, you can't. Right, it's okay. I'll explain. So the Nebula Program, we really wanted to introduce a pathway for gifted pupils, because we do a lot around SEN. We do a lot around, middle band pupils, if you like. But actually, the gifted pupils, we've not got anything meaningful for them. So we've introduced the Nebula Program, and that's for pupils who are, looking at grade 9s in English, maths, science. It is a program that you have to apply onto. It's a program that you have to take a test for. That has no bearing on your admission. So you apply to Springs as normal, and you forget about Nebula. Once you're in Springs and have got the place, then you're able to apply for Nebula, and that's really important. And we're going to push those pupils to be the very best that they can be. So they're going to have extra learning every day of an hour, Monday to Thursday. We will give them a day off on Friday and give them a little bit of a rest. But they'll have lecture style lessons, if you like, and it'll be more links to universities, trips out to those universities to look at what they can do, and it'll be a very high level program. There is information about it on the website, so you can actually go on the website, and if you click on the Nebula link, it'll give you the information that you need. Please, I would urge you to go onto the website and have a good look around, because there's lots of different videos, etc. As I say, Nebula, it's a first for us. We've never done it. I'm so excited. I think it's a brilliant program for those pupils. Yeah, I think the pupils that get on there will have a great time.
Okay, we've got a question from Sarah. How do you deal with mobile phones, or do you use them in school? Also, do you cover social media use with the children, i.e. cyberbullying? Yeah, so mobile phones are always a difficult one, isn't it? So our stance on mobile phones is if we see or hear them, then we'll take them off the pupils till the end of the day. So we say no to mobile phones. A couple of reasons, really. One, because they can, cause trouble, and two, because they are really expensive now, and if any go missing, I'd hate for that to happen. We're also understanding that actually, pupils might need them. Parents might want pupils to have them, if they're walking home and it's dark, etc. So we say, long as they're switched off, long as we don't see or hear them, then we take them. As I say, we take them off them. Currently, since we've been back in September, I'd say we probably get about 3 mobile phones confiscated a day, or 4. So pupils know the guidelines. We cover cyberbullying through our PSHE program, through Form Time, through something called ACE Day that we have, and we take pupils through cyberbullying. I also want to point out that if cyberbullying does occur, whether it be at the weekend or in the evening, if it involves our students, then we will actively get involved, and if necessary, use the police. We won't stand for anything like that. We'll educate the pupils on what cyberbullying is, but we won't tolerate it. And I think that has to be important. As I alluded to earlier, incidents happen, and they do, and that's unfortunate, but it's how you deal with the incidents that is the most important thing. Okay, and I think we've touched on this before, but just another question. How does the bridge work, and is it open to everyone, or do you invite children? Is it open at break, dinner and before school? And do you teach children with SEN in there? What support is there for a child with ADHD and autism?
Okay, I'll try and cover all those. So the bridge is open every day. It's open before school, during break and at lunchtime. It even opens after school as well. It is open for when the transition takes place. Our Senko will sit down with staff from your child's primary school. We'll discuss the level of need each child has, and if if it's recommended that they join our bridge provision, they will. One thing we don't want to do is for a child to be in the bridge all the time, because they're joining secondary school and they need the opportunity to get out in secondary school. So it's very they spend limited but quality time in the bridge. So they might do form time, maths, etc. Our students love being in there at break and lunch, and some of the needs that pupils have that were spoke about in that question by Mr. Howard. Honestly, and it's probably the one area of school I wish I could show you live with students in it, because the amount of care and compassion that's shown in that area of school is great. A few months ago, we were visited by our Director of Secondary Academies for United Learning, and she said it was, and she's been in hundreds of schools up and down the country. She said it was one of the best SEN provisions she'd seen, and was blown away by it. And that's a credit to the Senko, Miss Benson, and her team that work with her. It is a phenomenal thing to just to see, and the students there. The worries around secondary school and how busy it is. We've got 1,000 students in there. It's going to be extremely daunting for all pupils, but particularly if you've got a level of need. So I'm really proud of the team in that area of school.
That was the last question, Mr. Shipman. No more questions have come through. Okay,
I just want to say thank you. We've been about an hour, so that's good. Sometimes I can ramble on and on and on, so I hope I'm bored you too much. I hope it comes across how passionate we are about this school. I hope that you trust us to do the best job we can. I am more than willing to speak to anybody whenever you want me to. Please ring reception. Just say you want to speak to Mr. Shipman. It's about transition. You listen to my presentation, and I'm more than happy to talk to you in a kind of one-on-one if you like. Thank you very much again for giving up your time tonight. I wish you the best of luck with choosing your secondary school. And it's the secondary school that we all love, which is Sheffield. You've got all the information you needed. Have a lovely evening, and thank you very much.